Oh, come on, just refresh. Took forever. Oh, come on. Yeah, okay. Yep, come on. There we go. Hello, this is Chiak. We are back again with Omen Exitio Plague. Now, I'm hoping I can make this the last of the sets, but I really just don't know how long this side story is supposed to be. So, Wild Horde. You're wondering whether some of the savages in the cave might have survived, and then rushed off to warn their companions. Spending the night in their village had been a terrible idea. You rush back to the hut to sound the alarm, but the first sleeping figure you see is Joe. First sleeping figure you see inside is Joe. It must have been him, of course. It was, after all, he who brought you to this place. Your anger grows relative to your awareness of this conclusion. Your blood begins to boil and your muscles tense up in readiness. I mean, now's not the time if you want to warn people. Now's not the time. It can't be his fault, leave him alone. You have to remain calm. The wild fury that had just gripped you appears to have extinguished itself equally as abruptly. But you certainly don't have the time to ask yourself what just happened. You must awaken your comrades and warn them of the enemy's ambush. The men are groggy and angry at being woken up. Rogers alone is on his feet the moment you rouse him. On your feet, men. Get ready to fight. The lieutenant shouts the orders while helping to barricade the door with the hut's only table. You're hastily loading your rifle when Lloyd comes up to you. He notices your trembling hands and the sweat dripping down your face and neck in constant cold trickles. Are you okay, McLean? You don't look so good. It's nothing, Lloyd. Had a nightmare. Oh, did Will Eric have a bad dream? His attempt at humor falls flat again, and for a moment you feel strange. You have the strong desire to put a round of bullets in his stomach. The urge is so tempting that you bring your rifle low to point straight at him, even stroke the trigger with your finger. Come on, let's kill this scum and get back to London. Lloyd's yelling snaps you back to reality, driving away dark thoughts from your head. What is happening to you? But this reflection is immediately interrupted by Saeed, who jumps towards you, frantically grabbing at your clothes. Effendi, we are dead men, dead men! Effendi, kill me! Effendi, please, quick, before they take me! The interpreter looks at you with mad, scared eyes, overcome with panic and paranoia. Roger tears him off you roughly. Damn it, Saeed, get a hold of yourself. You, get up and look lively. This last order is directed at Joe, who appears to be still fast asleep in his camp bed. You exchange an anxious glance with Rogers, who strides over to the bed and abruptly whips away the blanket to find a pile of straw, roughly in the shape of a man. Joe has gone. That son of a... You're suddenly interrupted by the sound of someone slamming hard into the door of the hut. The savages have the hut surrounded and are looking for a way inside. Their inarticulate screaming resounds in the darkness, but on your side of the makeshift barrier there is only a tense silence. Their yelling gets louder and deeper, beginning to sound more like the roars of a wild predator, until, by brute force, they succeed in breaking down the door. They pour into the room like snarling shadows, grappling and fighting each other, trying to be the first to taste your flesh. Their glistening bodies are painted with mud and colored pigment, and the strange tribal symbols appear to glow in the torchlight. You are well armed and ready, but the enemy coming at you now is a mass of writhing, growling bodies, frothing mouths, and sharp spears. Despite the frenzied savagery of the attack, thankfully you are managing to hold your position. Each successive savage who breaches the broken threshold is blown away by multiple shots of rifle fire until their corpses begin to pile up. The stack of bodies does not seem to deter the others, however, who scramble over and launch themselves at you in a frenzy. More and more rifle shots. In the dim light, each fleeting flash illuminates the gleaming skin of the disgusting enemy, mere caricatures of humans deformed by madness and voracity. You hit one square in the face, exploding his jawbone into a shower of teeth and bone, spraying into the air like confetti. The dim hut begins to fill with the combined dank stench of gunpowder smoke, of the savages, and of their blood. Yet another open-mouthed savage lunges at your throat, only to be ripped apart by a devastating close-range bullet from your rifle. Then you notice a group of torches near the entrance to the hut. Shooting towards the torchlight, you hit a savage in the back, and when he falls back, you see that he had been bent over a small body. Flames flare up from the torches, setting fire to the wooden walls of the hut and illuminating a small, spear-ridden corpse, which other savages are hungrily devouring. Utter terror shines in the still conscious child's eyes, flowing with tears. You cannot fathom the reason for that last desperate gesture of humanity. Nonetheless, it charges you with a burning desire for vengeance. You yell with rage. Growling, frothing at the mouth, other savages block your path to the child's body, jealously guarding their meal. Then you hear a herring shout behind you. "Effendi! Effendi!" You're just able to make out the figure of the interpreter, lit up on all sides by dancing flames. A human torch. Seed runs towards you, and you swerve him just in time to avoid catching fire yourself. "Effendi!" His screaming begins to break as the man throws himself into a group of savages, bringing them instantly into his terrible blaze. The image of the burning interpreter impresses itself upon your mind, as if branded there by the very same flames. His piercing shrieks begin to die away, leaving only a charred corpse to testify the existence of the interpreter Saeed, still shrouded in the flaming veil. Lloyd is not far from you, and his shots are giving you cover. He looks almost possessed, demonically taking down one cannibal after another with rapid volleys from his rifle. The number of enemy's attackers continues to grow, however, seemingly without end. Rogers is calmly keeping the savages at bay, and a considerable number of dead bodies are beginning to accumulate in a rough semicircle around him. The enemy seems to have sensed the threat posed by the lieutenant, and they concentrate on their efforts against him. You are reminded of the time Rogers managed to single-handedly defeat an entire armed regiment. This enemy, though, is not composed of soldiers, and they appear to have absolutely no fear of death. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. The sound behind you makes you turn. To your horror, two savages have entered the hut via a concealed entrance to the rear of the building, which you had overlooked. You will have to deal with them, but you also have to make sure that the point of access is secured. The last thing you need is to be attacked from both sides. You can't assist your comrades and at the same time address the problem of the door to the rear. Your energy levels are running low, along with your ammunition. As you are reloading, you realize you will have to make a decision. Let's go for the rear door so there's not more enemies coming from a different direction. You place yourself in front of the hidden door and take down numerous savages with blasts from your rifle. The back entrance is narrow, and so it holds savages for a few moments. Ferociously hungry, they block each other in a mad scramble. You leave no survivors. When it appears the flow of savages has finally stopped, you turn back to your companions inside the hut. Looking around, you see Rogers between the rising flames. You call to him, but your voice is lost in the deafening blaze. You race over to him and grab his shoulder. "James!" He collapses silently to one side and then to the ground. There are 3 spears lodged in his stomach, but there are no signs of having been bitten. The lieutenant must have killed them all before dying himself. A strangely serene look appears on his face, almost as if he were sleeping. There's no time, however, For the luxury of mourning, Lloyd nearby continues shooting savages after savage. Again, you rush across the floor of the hut, this time towards Lloyd, shouting his name. After maiming yet another savage, he notices you. As he does so, he flashes you one of his usual cocky smiles. It is the last thing you see of Lloyd. A burning rafter collapses and instantly buries him in a fiery tomb. You're dumbfounded by the sight, frozen on the spot. So much so that you almost do not realize the whole structure of the hut is about to give way to the intensity of the blaze. A flash of lucidity comes to you. You must not die now with the others. There is someone waiting for you. Still stunned by the death of your companions, you reach the rear door in the nick of time. Everything happens in the space of seconds. Even as you are crossing the threshold of the door, the hut begins to collapse, raising huge clouds of smoke and flying embers. There are more torches flashing behind the trees in the vegetation around, like will-o-wisps. You must escape before the savages' reinforcements arrive. You start running in the opposite direction of the lights and dive into the thick wall of bushes, trees, and vines, moving into the unknown. You're running. Your legs are constantly threatening to give way, but you cannot stop. You whip through the vegetation without any real direction. Rogers and Lloyd's recent deaths are stamped indelibly, I do not know how to say that word, into your mind, and you keep reliving them over and over. You are alone. Feeling a need to orientate yourself, you are looking for even the smallest break in the monstrous vegetation above you, for a small patch of stars. Even if you were able to maintain your current pace, it would take around 2 hours to reach Stonetown. When you finally do find a patch of sky, it is of no comfort. Then you feel a strange tingling inside you, followed by the intense pain of your intestines suddenly tightening like constrictor snakes. The heavenly vaults fill your vision. The stars seem to grow into giant greasy stains, and the sky itself begins to transform in shape and color, becoming a dark ruby red like freshly coagulated blood. The white moon, like an egg or a singular accusatory eye, is circled by the ruddy firmament like an enormous womb. There is a deafening roar in your ears, and it feels like the skin of your face is being peeled off in strips. Your jaw drops open, and you scream at the top of your lungs for what seems like an eternity. Reality slowly starts to recompose itself around you, and it takes you a moment to realize that you are on the ground, frothing at the mouth and panting heavily. Every muscle in your body is contracted, and looking down, you see that both your hands are clenched tightly around bundles of grass. Your heart beating wildly, you stagger to your feet. The savages' cries are getting closer. There is no time now to reflect on what just happened to you. You must escape or find shelter. Let's try hide. You know, I was wondering, is this possibly a dream? But so far, I'm not getting inclinations that this is a dream. You stop to catch your breath, hidden away in a small patch of vegetation. You're trying to collect your thoughts, even though your lungs are still burning and every single part of your body is in total agony. Suddenly, a sound from behind you startles you. A different sound from the savage's senseless roaring. It sounds almost like a child's voice. Without really knowing why, you abandon the safety of your bushes and follow the noise, feeling oddly compelled to discover its source. You find yourself in a small clearing in the middle of the forest. Now the voice is getting more distinct, and you can hear what it is saying. Father. Then you see it. About 20 feet from where you are standing, there is a small child. You notice with horror that his body is covered head to toe with scars and bruises. Staring at you with wretched, tearful eyes, he raises his hands to protect his face, as if afraid of you. He looks a lot like you. Or perhaps he only resembles your memory of yourself as a child. As you approach, the jungle surroundings fade into muted shades of gray, and the young boy cowers ever more anxiously. He appears to be unable to see you and is staring intently at something or someone in front of him. Father. I'm here. Father, don't hurt me. It is at that moment that you notice from behind a figure standing threateningly in front of the boy. Getting closer, you see that in his hands he is holding a walking cane, and the child's terrorized eyes are fixed upon it. Only when he raises an arm do you see his face, which you immediately recognize. It is you. No. Your doppelganger starts beating the boy with the cane, ignoring his desperate moans, his pleas for mercy, and the blood spraying onto his clothes. No! You launch yourself at him in a fit of rage. As your punches land, however, they merely create swirling eddies of black mist out of his dematerialized form. Your foot falls and you are swallowed up by a carpet of leaves and snapping branches. You are tumbling headlong into a huge pit dug into the forest floor. Even as you are falling, you have another fleeting vision. This time, however, the characters have changed roles. It is your father with his brass-top walking cane towering over you now, a child. Tears are streaming down your cheeks, and one of your legs is unnaturally bent. Then you impact against the hard ground of the pit, and pain overwhelms your senses. You have a vague awareness of having broken something, but the pain quickly becomes unbearable, and you slide into unconsciousness. Okay, just take a small sip of my drink here. Abyss. When at last you regain your senses, you find yourself face to face with the rocky walls of the pit. The air is thick, with the musty smell of damp earth. Being in the grip of a fever, you only barely manage to sit up. The minutes pass, punctuated only by strange moments when you think you can hear soldiers' voices coming from Stonetown, the mad screams of the savages, and, worst of all, the deafening roar of the drifting clouds above. But in the time between these strange auditory hallucinations, all the sounds you can hear are muffled, smothered by the surrounding walls of earth, clay, and rock. Several times you attempt to climb the walls, but your handholds disintegrate between your fingers, and with each crumbling handhold, you have less and less strength for the following attempt. The sky begins to lighten as dawn breaks, throwing its first rays straight onto the circular edges of the pit, illuminating them as if to mock you. Your salvation is just there, a few feet away, and it seems as if the sun is showing you the way. You're quite sure that before long, an army scout will come looking for you. You're not even that far from Stonetown, so you might even be lucky enough to be found randomly by patrol soldiers. But no one comes to help. As the hours inexorably pass, your fever is intensifying, making every noise and smell seem amplified. You keep dozing off, only to wake up a short time later suffering even more from lethargy and exhaustion, as if you are moving by small increments towards the endless sleep of death. You reach for your diary. You find much-needed comfort in its leather cover and the beautiful smell of the pages. In the nightmarish delirium of this trench, it seems like your only firm hold on reality. Once you begin writing, the words flow relentlessly from your hand. The shapes of the letters start to take on bizarre flourishes, the like of which you have never seen before. You're discombobulated. It feels as if someone else is writing. After several hours of manic writing, you realize that very little of what you have written makes any sense. The words and letters are all mixed up with the pages and pages of incomprehensible and arcane-looking glyphs, patterns, and sigils. Yet despite your deteriorating condition, you're somehow able to interpret them, to feel their meaning. They are vague and ancestral, like images remembered from a dream, as intangible as the dusty trail of a falling star or an ancestor's dying breath. Overwhelmed by your hallucinations, you let the journal fall to the ground. Then you see that the sun is setting and you realize that you have been writing the entire day. Okay, let's see what this diary entry is. Monster in the cave, suspicions. Okay, we figured that. Okay, I think this is it. It's the end. They're all dead. We're all dead. Okay, I think this is actually... So this... Is this the last entry? My name is Eric McLean. Although I am about to become a father, I shan't live to see my son. The savages ambushed us. Rogers and Lloyd are dead. I'm the sole survivor of the regiment, stuck at the bottom of a god-forsaken hole in the jungle floor. My head is burning up and I am not thinking clearly. The only thing I can do is write. Write so as not to go insane. So as not to give in to death. Like the others, I can feel something moving inside me. It's difficult to describe, but it feels horrible. As if there were parasites crawling under my skin. The heat is intense, like the heat from the fireplace at home, the one that Lizzie would watch for hours, while the reflections of the flames flickered and danced in her eyes. Only these flames are looking painfully at my skin. All I have left is this diary, the only connection to reality holding me back from the precipice of insanity. Even though my body has already surrendered, I must try somehow to retain my sense of reality. James, if you hadn't brought me here, I'd be at home now, excitingly looking forward to the birth of my baby boy. Destiny is hell, isn't it, James? You tore me from my father's clutches. I used you as a shield all my life, and now I'll never be able to prove that to you that everything you did for me wasn't in vain. I won't be able to show you that I can be a better father than my own. Thomas, you weren't such an idiot after all. Perhaps in other circumstances we might even have been friends. Now I suppose none of these reflections actually matter. They're just words. Lizzie, I have so many things that I would like to say to you. Yet, at the same time, I would never want you to read this diary. The nightmares tormenting me, in the brief moments I do sleep, are truly horrific. I can't get them out of my head. When I only want to think about you and our coming baby. I can feel my fever rising, my skin burning unbearably, and my nails are beginning to loosen from my fingertips. Blood everywhere. The effort of writing is giving me terrible pain. Help me, please. I want to go back home. I want to see my wife again. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Your fingers are shaking and bleeding. Besides your already maddening thirst, you're beginning to get desperately hungry, and you're quite certain that you're losing your mind. As you're huddling in your damp grave, you push yourself against the wall, as if you wanted it to just swallow you up. Elizabeth, your Lizzie, what will become of her? And your baby? What kind of life will they have without you? You have been searching for directions your whole life in the maps you drew yourself, and you had found it. Something many never find their entire lives, the right path. Now, only a few yards away, it seems forever beyond your reach. Okay, out of curiosity, what is this? Didn't I already... Whoa, okay, Jesus. Okay, I wasn't aware of this page. That actually scared me. Although painful, the thoughts of your wife and child give you new strength. You will only have one more attempt before you inevitably succumb. This is your last chance. Hoping to attract attention, you raise a loud cry up to the heavens with all your remaining strength. Your screams scratch the walls of your throat, rising up from your earthly grave, and are lost to the jungle. You start to taste blood in your mouth, and your voice gets weaker with each shout. In a matter of minutes, your voice is hoarse, and you can only produce a sort of breathing, croaking sound, like the death rattle of a wounded animal. Now that you are deprived even of your hope, you sink to the floor of the pit, and the fever drags you down, ever deeper, into a cataplexy of despair. Almost lost to the nadir, you suddenly stir to action when you feel something fall onto your shoulder. You jolt towards as if suddenly regaining energy. Your fingers come to rest on what seems to be a thick rope, which stretches as soon as you pull on it. The adrenaline rushes through you. You use the rope to heave yourself to your feet and, trying to ignore your burning muscles, your aching lungs, and your ears throbbing painfully, as if underwater, you start to climb the walls of the pit. They heard your cries for help, and now they have found you. Soon you will be home. Finally, you'll be able to see Lizzie and welcome your child into the world, and pay your respects to your fallen companions. You cling to the rope, almost squeezing it with your wounded fingers. As you ascend, it gets more and more painful, but you're almost there, and you're exhilarated. The forces of nature yield to man yet again. The edge of the trench is getting closer. This dirty grave is not going to be yours. Okay, hopefully it's not the cannibals. Suddenly you feel a sharp blow to your stomach, followed by excruciating pain, burning like the white, hot embers of a fire. It almost causes you to fall, but somehow you manage to keep your grip. As soon as you pull on the rope again, however, the agony returns stronger than ever. Like a shower of needles sends sparks in your abdomen, and you look down and see that the rope is not actually a rope at all. Your bloody guts are spilling repulsively from the huge gash in your stomach, and they are hanging from the celestial vaults. When you look up, you see that the stars have become small, red, menacing eyes. You scream in near silence, your voice long gone. You try to break free, but your own innards are wrapping around your wrists, locking them in place, and your feet are sinking into the earth, which has become a pulsating mass of flesh and organs. Something grabs you from behind, and you turn just in time to see the monstrosity that has become of the entire distorted reality around you. Its face, or at least what you interpret it as its face, is covered with pustules and bleeding sores that pop, one after the other, and then reform to create an endless cycle of bulbos of different sizes and colors, so bright and repulsive that your eyes cannot bear the sight for long. The creature's bubbling noises then give way to strange, meaningless words, while it continues shedding large fragments of its face and blood spurts from numerous openings on its skin. Its features continue to morph until they begin to take on some all too familiar features. Yours. Its head begins to turn, and you hear its meaningless words in your ears, till you suddenly realize that your very lips are moving too. An incomprehensible chant increases in volume, while your arms rise up towards the sky, quickly becoming tentacles covered with hideous, weeping pustules. From where you are, you can see the bright high moon in the sky before your eyes explode in a wonderful vermilion eruption. Your hearing fades, your ears blocked by something dripping onto your shoulders. You close your eyelids and smile, feeling every inch of your skin as it cracks to make room for the bare gums of your jaws. You will never know the joy of seeing your child born. But this is not a problem when you're part of something so grand and beautiful. You, one of the virulent cultures that will make up the majestic mosaic of the end. Histolek. Okay, so I was actually not that far from the end in my last set. That says I wouldn't have made it. Even though it was just half an hour, I wouldn't have made it to the end. I was falling asleep reading it, which it's so weird. It's like I'm in the middle of a word and suddenly I just end up sort of passing out. It's like, okay, well, that was weird. Hopefully I wasn't sleeping for long. But alright, so I mean, no matter what, because we know from the main story that no one in that thing makes it, I guess it's just their story. It's unfortunate the one thing, it says side stories, but really it's just the one. And I didn't see any DLC. When was this released? I'm just trying to think. Because depending when it, well, because I feel like it was just, 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe? But at the same time, if no content has arrived yet, then I'm not quite sure if there are going to be any more side stories. I'm assuming they wanted to do more, and it just never happened. Or maybe the Kickstarter can only allow for the one side story. But either way, I think that finishes off the Omen Exitio Plague. This game is on Steam, so if you do want to see, in terms of the main game, the other paths and all that stuff, you can go ahead and play it yourself. Either way, it's a short set, but that's what it is. Thank you for liking if you like. Thank you for commenting if you commented. Thank you for subscribing if you subscribed. Thank you for favoriting if you favorited. Thank you for simply clicking on this video. Until next time, guys, see ya!